On the morning of May 18, 1927, the children of Bath, Michigan, woke up expecting an ordinary school day. Some rushed through breakfast. Others walked familiar dirt roads toward school with friends and classmates. Teachers prepared lessons. Parents headed to work. Farmers climbed onto tractors and horse-drawn wagons. Everything seemed normal. Nothing appeared unusual. Nothing appeared dangerous. Yet hidden beneath the floors of the local school, one of the deadliest acts of mass murder in American history was already waiting. The people of Bath could not see it. The teachers could not see it. The children could not see it. 4 months. Danger had been quietly growing beneath their feet. Then shortly before 9:45 in the morning, the silence shattered. A tremendous explosion ripped through the school building. Windows exploded outward. Walls collapsed. Classrooms vanished in an instant. Children were buried beneath tons of bricks, concrete, and steel. Teachers disappeared beneath the rubble. Across town, residents froze in shock as the sound echoed across the countryside. Many believed a boiler had exploded. Others feared an earthquake. Nobody yet understood the horrifying truth. Within minutes, the peaceful farming town of Bath had become the scene of a national tragedy. A tragedy so shocking that nearly 100 years later, it remains the deadliest school mass murder in American history. Yet surprisingly, most Americans have never heard of it. In order to understand the tragedy, we first need to understand the town where it happened. Bath, Michigan, was small. Very small. Located just north of Lansing, the community consisted mainly of farms, dirt roads, churches, and hardworking families. Life moved at a slower pace than it does today. Neighbors knew one another. Children grew up together. People left doors unlocked. The community trusted itself. At the center of that community stood Bath Consolidated School. The school represented progress. For many rural communities in the early 20th century, education was becoming increasingly important. Parents wanted opportunities for their children that previous generations never had. The school brought students together from across the surrounding countryside. Every morning, children arrived from nearby farms. Some walked miles to attend classes. Others arrived by horse-drawn transportation. Inside the school, teachers worked hard to provide education and hope for the future. No one viewed the building as a place of danger. It was viewed as a place of opportunity, a place where children could build better lives. Yet unknown to everyone, the building had already become the center of a deadly plan. A plan being carried out by someone living among them. Among the residents of Bath lived a man named Andrew Kehoe. At first glance, there was nothing extraordinary about him. He owned a farm. He worked the land. He attended community meetings. And outwardly, he appeared similar to many of his neighbors. But appearances can be deceptive. Andrew Kehoe was intelligent. He understood machinery. He was skilled with electrical systems and repairs. Many people considered him capable and hardworking. Yet there was another side to him. Neighbors later described him as stubborn, quick to anger, and deeply resentful when things did not go his way. Financial problems weighed heavily on him. Like many farmers during the 1920s, Kehoe struggled with debt. His farm faced difficulties. Money became increasingly scarce. Taxes frustrated him, especially school taxes. Over time, his anger toward the community began growing. Small frustrations became obsessions. Resentment turned into bitterness. Bitterness turned into hatred. And eventually, hatred turned into a plan. While neighbors worried about crops and weather, Andrew Kehoe was preparing for something far darker, something nobody around him could imagine. 4 months. He carefully hid his intentions. He spoke little, worked quietly, and continued building a plan that would soon shock the entire nation. For most people in Bath, the spring of 1927 seemed completely ordinary. Children attended classes. Farmers planted crops. Families planned for the future. Life continued as it always had. But beneath the surface, Andrew Kehoe was carrying out one of the most carefully planned attacks in American history. Months before the disaster, he began acquiring explosives. At the time, explosives were commonly used by farmers for clearing land and removing tree stumps. Because of this, purchasing them did not immediately attract suspicion. Kehoe understood exactly how to avoid attention. Piece by piece, he secretly transported explosive materials to Bath Consolidated School. The process took months. Nothing happened quickly, nothing appeared unusual. While students studied mathematics and reading, danger was slowly accumulating beneath their classrooms. Kehoe worked methodically, patiently, carefully. Investigators would later discover that explosives had been hidden throughout large sections of the school. Some were concealed beneath floors. Others were hidden inside walls. Everything had been designed for maximum destruction. Yet perhaps the most frightening aspect of the plan was how ordinary life continued above it. Teachers taught lessons. Children laughed with friends. Parents attended school events. Nobody noticed what was happening. Nobody imagined that a member of their own community was secretly preparing mass murder. As the weeks passed, the amount of hidden explosives increased. Every day brought the school closer to catastrophe. And every day, the children unknowingly sat above a growing bomb. The tragedy was no longer a possibility. It was becoming inevitable. The only remaining question was when. On the morning of May 18, 1927, the children arrived as they always did. Some hurried to class. Others laughed with friends in the hallways. Teachers prepared lessons. The school day had begun. Nothing appeared unusual. Then suddenly, at approximately 8:45 in the morning, the world changed. Without warning, a devastating explosion erupted beneath the north wing of Bath Consolidated School. The force was extraordinary. Entire sections of the building collapsed instantly. Walls disintegrated. Classrooms vanished. Desks, books, bricks, and debris were hurled through the air. Children were trapped beneath collapsing ceilings. Teachers disappeared beneath rubble. Witnesses later described hearing a thunderous blast that could be heard miles away. Across Bath, people stopped what they were doing. Farmers dropped tools. Residents rushed outside. Parents froze in confusion and fear. A massive cloud of dust rose above the school grounds. Many initially believed a boiler had exploded, but the reality was far worse. As townspeople raced toward the scene, they encountered unimaginable devastation. Part of the school had been completely destroyed. Cries for help echoed from beneath the wreckage. Parents desperately searched for children. Teachers attempted to organize rescue efforts. The air was filled with dust, smoke, confusion, and terror. Yet the horror was not over. While rescuers worked frantically, another explosion occurred. This second blast involved Andrew Kehoe himself. The additional explosion killed and injured more people near the disaster scene. What had begun as a school emergency quickly became something much darker. Investigators would soon realize this was no accident. It was murder. Carefully planned, deliberately executed, and carried out by a man many residents believed they knew. The moment the explosion occurred, Bath became a rescue zone. Every available person rushed toward the school. Farmers abandoned fields. Shop owners closed businesses. Parents ran from every direction. Firefighters arrived. Police officers responded. Doctors hurried to the scene. The entire community united around one goal: saving children. Many rescuers had little equipment. There was no sophisticated emergency response system. No modern rescue technology. No specialized disaster teams. Instead, ordinary citizens used whatever they could find: shovels, axes, crowbars, ropes, and often, their bare hands. The work was exhausting, dangerous, and emotionally devastating. Every piece of debris removed carried hope. Perhaps a child was alive beneath it. Perhaps a teacher was trapped and waiting for help. Rescuers worked continuously, ignoring fatigue, ignoring injury, ignoring fear. Some survivors were found alive, pulled from collapsed classrooms, covered in dust, injured but alive. Each rescue brought moments of relief, but many discoveries brought heartbreak. As hours passed, the scale of the tragedy became impossible to ignore. Families gathered near the school waiting for news. Some received good news. Others did not. The rescue effort continued throughout the day and into the night. By the end, the community would never be the same. But amid the devastation, the courage displayed by ordinary citizens became one of the most remarkable parts of the story. In the face of horror, Bath came together. As rescue operations continued, investigators began searching for answers. At first, many people believed the disaster had been an accident. Perhaps a gas explosion. Perhaps a boiler malfunction. Perhaps some tragic construction failure. But evidence quickly told a different story. As workers searched through the wreckage, they made a horrifying discovery. Additional explosives had been hidden throughout the school. Even more shocking, many of those explosives had failed to detonate. Investigators realized the death toll could have been far worse. The school had not simply exploded. It had been intentionally turned into a bomb. Authorities immediately began examining who could have done it. Their investigation quickly led to Andrew Kehoe. The more they uncovered, the more disturbing the story became. Months of preparation, careful planning, hidden explosives, and evidence suggesting the attack had been motivated by anger and resentment. Newspapers across America began publishing details of the investigation. Readers struggled to comprehend the scale of the crime. Many asked the same question: how could one man secretly prepare such destruction without anyone noticing? The answer was simple: because nobody expected it. Bath was a small town. People trusted their neighbors. They trusted their community. They trusted the people they saw every day. That trust had been shattered forever. As investigators pieced together the timeline, the nation slowly realized it was looking at one of the most shocking crimes in American history. As the investigation unfolded, Bath faced an even more painful reality: the victims, the names, the faces, the lives that would never return. Many of those killed were children. Students who had arrived at school expecting an ordinary day. Children who had dreams, goals. Families who loved them. Teachers also lost their lives. Some died while protecting students. Others were trapped inside collapsing classrooms. Throughout Bath, funeral services filled churches and community halls. Black clothing became common throughout town. Families mourned together. Entire classrooms were gone. Empty desks became painful reminders of the lives lost. Parents struggled with grief that words could barely describe. Brothers and sisters faced homes that suddenly felt incomplete. Teachers mourned students they had taught only days before. The emotional wounds reached every corner of the community. And while buildings could eventually be rebuilt, the people could not. The tragedy left scars that lasted generations. For many survivors, the memories never disappeared. Even decades later, some still remembered the sound of the explosion, the dust, the chaos, the fear, and the friends they never saw again. The story of Bath quickly spread beyond Michigan. Newspapers from coast to coast reported the tragedy. Front pages carried photographs of the destroyed school. Readers across America reacted with shock. Many had never imagined such a crime was possible. Letters of sympathy arrived from distant states. Communities organized support for surviving families. Political leaders discussed the disaster. Educators discussed school safety. Parents everywhere looked at their own children differently. The tragedy became national news. Yet as years passed, new tragedies emerged. New headlines appeared. And slowly, the story of Bath faded from public memory. Unlike many famous historical disasters, the Bath School disaster gradually became forgotten. But forgotten does not mean unimportant. In fact, the event remains one of the most significant tragedies in American educational history. A reminder of how quickly ordinary life can change, and a reminder of how communities respond when confronted by unimaginable loss. Today, nearly a century after the disaster, the town of Bath still remembers. Memorials stand where tragedy once occurred. Historians continue studying the event. Families continue honoring the victims, and visitors continue learning the story. The Bath School disaster occupies a unique place in American history. It was not a natural disaster. It was not an accident. It was a deliberate act of violence. Yet it is rarely discussed compared to other major historical events. For many historians, that makes remembering it even more important. The story is not simply about destruction. It is about community, courage, loss, resilience, and the responsibility to remember those whose lives were cut short. Because history is not only about famous people and great victories. Sometimes, history is about ordinary people, children, teachers, parents, neighbors, people whose stories deserve to be remembered. And Bath deserves to be remembered. History often remembers wars, presidents, generals, and famous battles. But some of the most important stories are the ones that happened in places nobody expected. Places like Bath, Michigan. On the morning of May 18, 1927, children walked into school believing they were beginning an ordinary day. They carried books, homework, dreams, plans for the future. Some hoped to become teachers. Others wanted to become farmers, doctors, mechanics, parents, citizens who would help build their communities. But many never had the opportunity. Their futures were stolen in an instant. Nearly 100 years later, the tragedy remains one of the darkest chapters in American history. Not because of the scale alone, but because of who the victims were. Children, teachers, families, ordinary people who never imagined they would become part of history. Yet even after all these years, the people of Bath continue to remember. Memorials stand where destruction once stood. Names remain engraved in stone. Stories continue to be passed from generation to generation. Because remembrance matters. Every victim had a name. Every victim had a family. Every victim had a future. And every victim deserves to be remembered. The Bath School disaster reminds us that history is not simply about what happened. It is about the people who lived through it. The people who suffered. The people who survived. And the people we must never forget. As long as their stories continue to be told, their memory survives. And perhaps that is the most powerful legacy of all. The Bath School disaster happened nearly a century ago, yet many Americans have never heard of it. A tragedy that claimed innocent lives, a community forever changed, and a story that deserves to be remembered. Perhaps the most heartbreaking part is knowing that the children who entered school that morning had no idea their lives were about to change forever. They were simply students, going to class, just like millions of children do every day. So what do you think? Why do some historical tragedies become famous, while others slowly disappear from public memory? Should more people learn about the Bath School disaster? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. And if this documentary taught you something new, please like, share, follow, and support the page for more forgotten history stories that deserve to be remembered. And most importantly, tell us in the comments section, what forgotten historical event should we uncover next? Because history is filled with stories the world should never forget.